Everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar. Slight mix-up with our intro video there, the delights of technology. But anyway, welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar. Tuning in for Match Week 3 reviews this evening with myself, Mark, and Peter. Obviously, we're going to be getting stuck into what is probably going to be quite an enjoyable and big show. There's lots of Bundesliga action to review and get stuck into and reflect on. Obviously, before we do so, there's going to be a featured 5 tonight as well. So we're going to be covering 5 games in as much detail as we can do, and then a very shortened best of the rest. And we're still going to be doing Peter's Kiosk Klub as well. All the lovely bits of admin, of course, to do just before we get started, though. And one thing that we want to start with is a bit of an exclusive from one of our fantastic partners, who is obviously Bundesliga Boxes, who me and Mark have got many Bundesliga box over the years and, years of service that we've been going with them. And we can reveal for the first time anywhere on social media or across the interweb that pre-orders of batch 33 for Bundesliga boxes will commence from Friday the 22nd of September. So make sure you put that in your diaries to make sure that you do not miss out on some pre-orders, because batch 32 sold out and was the most successful Bundesliga boxes we've ever had. As you can tell, one of the big popular parts of that was the magnetic league table. Looks like so much fun. I wish I actually got myself one of them, but I was too slow. So make sure you get onto that. As I said, pre-orders for batch 33 go live Friday, 22nd of September. I will be reminding you at the end of the show as well. So that is an exclusive from our friends from Bundesliga Boxes. So thank you for letting us reveal it live on the show tonight via the podcast, via YouTube. What a way to get ourselves going. And of course, make sure you smash a like on the video, smash a like for the exclusive, comment along whilst we're live, or subsequently, if you've got any questions for the chaps or myself, make sure you press the red button and subscribe to the channel. Right then, so chaps, we'll get stuck into our featured 5. And in 5th place, we reckon, or to our own thoughts, is going to be the Sunday afternoon game between Union Berlin and RB Leipzig, which finished 3-0 to the visitors. Mark, I'll hand things over to you straight away. And what was, a close affair until, a bit of class from Xavi Simons and a red card for Union new boy Kevin Volland, who I can certainly have no complaints about the red card. And then it was a brace for, again, a new boy of RB Leipzig, Sesko, who's, I just have to comment one bit before I hand over to yourself. That pass from Dani Olmo for the 3rd goal was just delightful and a lovely thing to view. What were your thoughts on this game? And, what is a statement win, we can possibly say, by RB?
Yeah, I just felt as though it was a superb performance from RB. I think aside from the early header from Kevin Volland, who obviously ended up getting his marching orders in the second half, that was a good chance actually from the cross coming in from Goossens, and then a good header, which was well saved by Blasvik. But after that, I just thought it was complete domination, total domination, as they would say, from the German Red Bulls, as they call them. I just thought, obviously Xavi Simons is looking like one hell of a player as well. I thought he was superb. After a slow debut the last 2 weeks, he's been brilliant. Obviously coming from with a massive label really on his back after that amazing season with PSV Eindhoven last season. Really impressed with him. Dani Olmo is just shaping up to be one of the players of the season as well. And as you mentioned, that pass for the 3rd goal and just his all-around industry, constantly a threat in that RB side, especially in the second half. Yeah, I felt as though I'm really liking the look of the Campbell-Schlager axis as well. I feel as though that's working really well. Obviously, the first game they started with Seewald. He didn't particularly do it, but they made the change immediately to bring Campbell back in, and that's working really nicely. they probably were helped a little bit by the stupidity from Folland, which was actually a really ugly challenge as well, which deservedly got his marching orders. And that made life a little bit easier to break down that notoriously difficult Union defence. But yeah, as you mentioned, Šeško, he comes in with a reputation of scoring goals, and he managed to do that as well. I thought he took his first goal well, just about sliding the ball in off the post. And then the second one was a relatively easy header after that sumptuous ball in from Olmo. But yeah, overall, really, really good performance. I even thought David Raum, who I've criticised a little bit at times, I thought he was good. He put in a beautiful corner in the first half as well, which Willy Orban just put wide. But yeah, I just thought, Leipzig are looking hot. They came into this season with really, really high hopes, and so far they're delivering as well. The bench is just absolutely stacked. We barely even mentioned Christoph Baumgartner this season so far, and he, is one of their kind of marquee signings. Hopefully he's going to get a little bit more involved, because I don't want to see a player of his quality spending the season sitting on the bench. But yeah, I mean, superb performance. Another thing you've got to remember is that Union have won the last 4 league meetings between these sides as well. They've done the double over RB Leipzig the last 2 years. So this is for me, it is a statement win, absolutely. And I think we could safely say that after a difficult start fixture-wise, RB are looking pretty hot again now.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Peter, I mean, we can maybe say, statement win. It's maybe an easy phrase to throw about, perhaps, if RB were at home and, circumstances were different, but Union Berlin do not lose at home. And, they came and they saw out the first half, and obviously, things did go their way a little bit more, but they played quality football. And the Red Bulls are looking very, very ferocious at this point.
Not surprising, of course. We talked a lot about them last week while we were covering Stuttgart, of course, and the fact that Marco Rose made the right personnel choices last week in bringing Kevin Campbell back in to work alongside Zaberschlager. He actually had a very strong match, I believe. You've already mentioned David Raum and Xavi Simons. Simons was voted player of the season thus far by Transfermarkt. I was just reading that before we went on air. So he is a player that most Germans have been excited to see this season, and it's quite understandable that he's getting the respect that he deserves. He had an absolutely fantastic game. I mean, it was not necessarily the result many German football fans were hoping for. And I mean, we expected a tight game. I was not surprised at all to see that the XG figures at the half were not 3.5, not 5.5, or something to that effect. Folland's early chance, you mentioned, a rightful red card. I was a little bit critical of Urs Fischer in the tactics column for perhaps maybe not trying out a new system, given the fact that he had Brendan Aronson out on the red and this 3-5-2 double stack. I mean, if you're going to deploy that system, then by all means, drill your team in it and make sure that they want the ball and that they have some attacks planned out. It didn't seem like they had a lot of ideas. But as you mentioned, Rory, Mark mentioned the fact that they had done the double of them over them for 2 consecutive years. There was also the Union home winning streak at the Stadion an der Alte Försterei, that 24 matches, I believe. The only time that Leipzig beat Union at the Stadion an der Alte Försterei was Union's, I think it was their second Bundesliga game back in the 2019-20 campaign. So, yes, indeed. Not the most entertaining football match. We were keeping a close eye on Volland. Many of us German national team fans were, of course. Looks like he's got some work to do and maybe a few extra pounds to shed as well. And we were also watching Leonardo Bonucci on the bench making some wild Italian like gesticulations. That was a great deal of fun, of course. But it is a statement win by Leipzig. No contest. They have the better, deeper squad. And, unfortunately, we won't be singing Union's praises as we did in the Kiosk Klub last week this time around.
No, but a bit, I'm sure, just a blip in the road for Union. I think, just a few comments I want to come back to. So thank you to everyone who's put in any comments so far, from Ballum checking in, Alan Michaels, Matteo, Castillo, who's also a big follower of ours, and Gary as well. Evening to all of you. Thanks for your comments so far. Just a few that I'm going to try and work my way backwards through. Firstly, one from Alan. I think this is, what we all would certainly voice. Yes, we're all supporting Union in Europe this year. We shall be following them with great interest and pride. And, what a way for them to start, just going away to the Bernabeu and meeting up with Jude Bellingham again. That should be a magical evening for all of those involved with Union Berlin. I'm absolutely sure they cannot wait for that. I think comment from Matteo just relating to Dani Olmo is such a good player. I thought he was going to Man City in the summer. All the papers I read when I was home in Spain said he was. Bundesliga is lucky to have him. Completely agree, Matteo. Bundesliga is absolutely lucky to have him. I'm so very thankful he hasn't gone to Man City yet.
Yeah,
I second that. Yeah, could be watch this space though with that one. But yeah, we hope Dani Olmo stays in the Bundesliga as long as possible. One from Gary. Too slow on the last Bundesliga boxes. Really wanted the magnetic chart. Are they available elsewhere? All I would say to that, Gary, is just drop, go onto Twitter and drop the Bundesliga chaps a DM, and then they'll be the best people to tell you where to get any of those magnetic charts. I might have to do the same because I also really want one. So yeah, just give them a DM. I'm sure they'll be able to inform you correctly. Just checking a few other comments here. Another one from Gary. Are there more Matchday vlogs / watch-alongs coming up at any time soon? Well, there hopefully is a Matchday vlog coming soon because, Mark and Peter can maybe drop that announcement a little bit later on or towards the end of the show. But yes, there should be certainly a vlog coming soon. The next watch-along we probably would assume is going to be, it's going to have to be after the international break, unfortunately, as we're now upon that. But yeah, we'll be doing a good few more watch-alongs once we're back in action. I think we come back with Bayern Leverkusen, so we'll have a little look at maybe doing that as well for you all. Doobie-doos. Also one here from Gary. Great to see the show back. Another great weekend of action. Really enjoyed Peter's Kiosk Klub in the last show. Glad it's a regular feature, as are we. And we'll come back to any more questions. One quick one here as well from Ballon. Peter is a German who Germans prefer as new Bundesliga winner, Leipzig or Leverkusen, two company teams, as we know. What are your thoughts on that quickly, Peter?
I know that Ballum has sympathies towards RB Leipzig, so I respect that. But I would go with Leverkusen based on the fact that they are an older club. That's simply how Germans are. I respect Ballum's sympathies to Leipzig. I do. Brilliant.
Very quickly as well, a couple more extra new comments. Evening, Dan and Danny, who are both checked in. When Peter speaks, I listen. Fountain of knowledge. Love the Kiosk Klub. So more love for you there, Peter, from Dan, top man. Yes, we all listen when Peter speaks. And then just one from Danny. Let's have a quick look at this one. Real pity that Union don't play the Champions League games in their stadium. It'd be hilarious to see Real Madrid at the Alte Forsterei. It is a great shame. And the atmospheres, I'm sure, would be epic. But also, it's kind of quite hilarious that they're doing it at Hertha's ground as well. Because it's almost like the biggest slap in the face possible, isn't it, really? Apologies to Hertha fans if you're checking in. This evening, I'm sure they'll make just as good a atmosphere and, paint the town red, literally, in the Olympiastadion when they get to it. So looking forward to all that. So thank you all for your lovely comments, particularly towards Peter. I'm sure Peter's night has already been made and we're only a quarter of the way through the show. So that's a good start. Absolutely beaming. Right, we shall move on to the fourth game. I think there's a couple of other comments come in. So thanks for that, Ben. We'll get to that in a second. But for our fourth game on the featured 5 this evening, it's Leverkusen 5, Darmstadt 1. We put this in 4th place because it's obviously one that myself and Mark, well, pretty much everyone who follows the Bundesliga would have quite happily predicted. All our fantasy show was pretty much focusing on Leverkusen and heavy go on that. And, it took a while though, gents. I'll come to you, Peter, first on this one. And, we saw the first goal go in from Boniface. Good composure in the area and the lovely chip in to make it 1-0. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, yeah, the floodgates may well open, but a good character from Darmstadt in the first half, at least. Well played set piece from an attacking point of view. We were very open to criticize them from the defensive point of view last week from those set pieces, but they at least put some creativity into the box to get the header, from the back post, then back to the near post from Vilhelmsson. But unfortunately, once that second goal came for Leverkusen and they retook the lead, Peter, it was, just a show of their attacking might.
Indeed. And the second goal was that restored the lead 4 minutes after the restart was quite fluky. It took a double deflection off of a couple of guys I'm not sure I ever heard of, Isherwood and Mellon. Well, no, Mellon I know, but Isherwood I had never heard of. So yes, but personally speaking, I don't think there was really ever any doubt that Leverkusen weren't going to open the floodgates eventually. Basically, what you have with Leverkusen is, and we've talked about them a lot on the first 2 Matchday pods. They've, just how incredible Granit Xhaka directs this midfield. He is a midfield flight conductor and the perfect complement to someone with the creative presence of Florian Wirtz up there, Jonas Hofmann, who was plucked by Gladbach. I'm very, very sorry to the Fohlenhof enthusiasts out there and what he's capable of doing. And Boniface, whom is increasingly I compared him to Randall Kolo Muani in the opening round, but I'm thinking more Romelu Lukaku now because he is incredibly strong in addition to being elegant. And as I mentioned, Stefan Baumgart, I mentioned this on the opening pod. Stefan Baumgart said that if he had 100 million euros, he would have bought Boniface over Kane, and we laughed at that. And now look at this. Now look at what this guy is doing. He's absolutely taking the league by storm. Leverkusen, what else can one say? It was the perfect day for them. If everybody scored. Boniface with another brace, his second consecutive one in 2 weeks. Boniface set up Hofmann's goal. And then Mbamba and Hlozek came off the bench to score as well. Nathan Teller and Josip Stanisic looked strong in their debut. There's no discernible weaknesses unless, Mark, am I missing something?
Yeah, it's an amazing roster, isn't it? I think we were actually watching the game, weren't we, over in K-Town? Yeah, we were watching the obviously the, what do they call it in German when it's all the games together? But yeah, it was the conference, that's the one. Yeah, we were watching that. Yeah, and obviously we were saying at the time, I think when we came in, it was 1-1, and I just couldn't believe it, to be honest, when I saw that it was 1-1. But the second half, the floodgates well and truly open. That roster is just ridiculous, really. They're even filling the Bayer Arena at the moment. I've noticed the last couple of games, I think every seat is packed out, which is great to see because, at times when Leverkusen aren't doing so well, we do see a few empty seats there. But the fans clearly sense something. Xabi Alonso is cooking something, as Ballum likes to say. And yeah, I just want to mention one other moment in this game that really made me laugh. And for me, it kind of summed up the Darmstadt season. It was when it was at 0-0 and Holland and my man Fabian Nürnberger literally ran into each other, which led to the opening goal from Boniface. I don't know if you saw this one, but it reminded me of me back in my days of playing five-a-side football, and we had a team, and I remember 2 of our lads ran into each other as well, and we still talk about it today. So it was quite a comedy moment, really. Not for Darmstadt, but I know that the coach Lieberknecht was a bit disappointed that it wasn't pulled back for I don't know what a foul. It can't have been a foul, but maybe for fair play. But that was a real comedy moment for me, and it led to Boniface's first goal. But that just sums up the first 3 games that Darmstadt played, in my eyes, to be honest. They did well in the first half. A well-worked set-piece move led to Vilhelmsson equalising. I mean, that's what they've got to do more of, really, Darmstadt. They've got to use those set plays, corners, free kicks from those kind of positions to cause problems. And they did manage to do that, to be fair, in the first half. But yeah, Leverkusen were always too good. To be honest, I think I tipped 7-0 actually for this game in the prediction show. That was my expectation, 7-0. And to be honest, I actually think Darmstadt can take some positives. The fact they scored past this pretty solid-looking Leverkusen defence nowadays, which has also improved a lot, by the way. The likes of Tapsoba, Tar having really good starts to the season as well. I mean, Frimpong was just ridiculous as well. I didn't even know what position he was playing in this match because he was just all over the pitch. He clearly realised that, it was a chance for him to get some scorer points and also some fantasy points as well, which he did very well for anyone who had him in the fantasy team. But yeah, I mean, if there was ever a home banker, this was it, wasn't it? Let's be honest. I think we all knew that Leverkusen were going to win this game and well. But it's just, Jonas Hofmann getting his first goal for the club as well. He's made a really, really nice start. Already seems to be a bit of a fan's favourite there at the Bay Arena. And they're going to challenge for the title. I really do believe that this year. Obviously the next game, they move on to the Bayern Munich away. They shouldn't put too much pressure on themselves for that, because the title won't be decided on that game. A lot of people say they lose that game, then, the wheels are falling apart. But they've just got to go out there, enjoy that game and show what they can do, because I believe that they can win that game. But if they don't, there's still title challenges for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well summed up, the both of you. Eventually the floodgates did open and Leverkusen looking hot, as David Navas has mentioned in the comments. And just one from Chris as well. Chris Saunders, hope you're doing well. Derby Day dive-ins and rivalry videos. We shall try our best maybe to try and crop up a few during the international break if we got a bit of downtime. We enjoy doing them as well. We really enjoyed doing the club profiles of Darmstadt and Heidenheim, for example, as well at the start of the season. They were great fun. So if you guys want them, we will endeavour to get a few more of the Derby Days shows out, absolutely. And lots of comments just coming in regards to Paul McGarrigy, obviously over the bars, Paul McGarrigy putting on Twitter earlier in terms of his ending his 6-year affinity with Over the Bar, and there's some really nice comments in the chat this evening, which is lovely to see. And thank you everyone who's putting that in. I'm sure Paul will be really grateful for all the words that have been expressed his way, and he shall be dearly missed. Obviously, from a La Liga point of view, especially from Over the Bar and everything that he literally does for this show as well. So, we thank you a lot, Paul, for everything that you've done for the show.
Paul. And we'll miss you a lot if you're watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, top man. Right. So, apologies if I've missed any other comments that have come in from a Bundesliga point of view. Steve Timms, just one quick one. Take Kane out of Bayern. They finished second to RB. Leipzig had the better window. Yes, an interesting comment there from Steve. And Bayern will probably not feature in our featured 5. But yeah, interesting comment there from Steve. And, there's probably a lot of people that currently would agree with you. Right then. Let's move on to game number 3 as we make our way slowly through our featured 5. And, it's a relatively pleasant one to talk about this evening. Stuttgart 5, Freiburg 0. What can we say about Stuttgart's home form? It's pretty electric at the moment to start the season, which is, delightful for all the VfBers at the moment. Super quick start to the match, Mark. Fuhrich doing his trademark move now, where he cuts, where he's dribbling down towards the byline, will cut back in, and then he gets a shot away, and it's all very well knowing what's going to happen, but having the ability to stop it is another thing. Certainly one player that I would like to focus on a little bit more, and you've been talking about him a lot more as well, actually, Mark Fuhrich, and his first ever Bundesliga brace. He took his second one very calmly, even though there's probably a pass on, quite an easy one, I think it was to Silas, and he had the confidence to see it through and put the finish away. And it was an even game from a statistical point of view, this as well, Mark. So what do you think that Stuttgart did right? Was it a case of Freiburg just not turning up, really, and they still had chances, but they weren't maybe of a higher degree of danger per se, apart from a couple of big saves by Nubel towards the end of the first half, I believe?
Yeah, I think as Christian Streich said, they just didn't bother to defend, basically, Freiburg. They were quite poor defensively, and I think Streich was disappointed, particularly by the defensive display from the Sport Club in this game. But I think one other point we've got to mention is that actually Freiburg started the better. They had a couple of really, really good early chances. And Lienhardt, I was a little bit worried about Nubel going into this game after his mistake, and he actually almost made another clanger very early on. I had it down as a bit of a clanger. He kind of pushed the ball onto the bar when he should have been easily clearing the bar, either catching it or pushing it over the bar, and that could have led to a really poor start actually for Stuttgart in the game. But he got a little bit lucky. The Freiburg player couldn't quite tap the ball in, but obviously after that it was a bit of a clinic really from the VfB. And players that stood out, obviously, I mean, Ito was fantastic again at left back. I thought he was superb. The assist on Guirassy's second. He's a real player nowadays, Ito. And they did actually, obviously, they lost Sousa. But for me, I think I was saying to you, Petre, over the weekend, I'm not even sure I see that as a big loss anymore, because Sousa didn't have the best season last year. And I just feel as though Ito is more than capable of replacing him at that fullback position. Also, another man I'd like to mention is Stiller as well, obviously making his debut from Hoffenheim, a player who wasn't particularly rated in Kreisgau, actually played really, really well in this game, and he was like all action. He's always been rated, Stiller, actually. He's always been highly rated within Germany, and I believe that, he adds a lot of balance to that team as well. That's what I like about him. I am a bit disappointed that Mio is being dropped at the moment from the starting lineup. He obviously came off the bench to score. It's disappointing, but I do believe that kind of axis of Stiller and Karatso gives them a very good balance in the team, and it allows the forward players to really show what they can do, because, as you mentioned, Fuhrich has been one of the kind of stars of the season so far for me. And I also really like Jong as well. I think he's been a really smart signing, obviously playing against his former employers as well. And he was superb again in the game, very industrious in that attacking midfield position. There's a lot to be proud of at the moment for Stuttgart. And, even with the losses of the likes of Mavropanos, Sousa, and even Endo, I don't feel as though they're missing any of them at the moment, in truth. And I think there's a real good balance to that side. I think Stenzel, is half decent at the moment. Obviously, I would imagine he will be replaced by Wagnermann when he gets back from injury, and that's going to add even more strength into that squad and that roster. And I just feel as though, at the moment, I think I mentioned to you, Rory, I think they look like European challengers at the moment. And I like the balance in the side. I know you're getting a bit nervous over that, but I think with the decline of the likes of, Gladbach and Frankfurt, I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe not quite get Europe, but I think a top half finish is possible. Certainly if they carry on this fantastic home form, and just the general balance of the squad looks really good to me at the minute.
Yeah, have to say that there's a lot of nice things that you said there, Mark, and a lot of them I do have to agree with. We've the way that you mentioned Ito slotting into left back, and we've now in terms of having depth there, we've got Mittelstadt who did come on, and that's a little bit of depth there. And you say Stenzel, so the fullbacks now, they're not looking rich in depth, but still looking okay because of the way that we started. I still have a little bit of a worry at centre half, but obviously, a clean sheet against Freiburg is excellent. And Anton and Zaga have made a really good start there. And actually, there's been a couple of signings that Stuttgart have made in that position, who we'll have to see how well they settle into the team and whether they become starters or not. But yeah, overall, Peter, Mark's kind of gone into that fairly in depth. So I don't know if you've got anything to maybe add on a Freiburg point of view, if you were disappointed with the way that they showed up, especially with their really strong record against VfB in recent years.
The defending from Freiburg, Christian Streich absolutely lambasted his team, and that included everyone, Kilian Sedilia and particularly Matthias Ginter, whom it should be noted, might be somewhat distracted by the fact that he was dropped from the national team in favor of Brighton's Pascal Gross. In terms of Stuttgart, I don't think they're title contenders, to answer a question I saw up there previously. I don't know about Europe either. You guys did a fantastic job of covering that in depth. There will be some more Stuttgart pieces when we get to the Kiosk Klub feature.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, good point made by Danny in the comments as well. John will be at the Asian Cup. Could be away for around 4 matches after the international break, so Millot could well be starting again. Completely get your point, Mark, as well about Millot. And it's, obviously a shame that he's not started the last 2, but also I do kind of get it. I was shocked that Egluf got the start against RB Leipzig, but I think he did okay in the first half of that match, but then struggled physically afterwards. But obviously, Millot being in the axis of the partnership with Karatsaw, he played well in the first game, but is that going to be his future? I think he wants to be further up the pitch, doesn't he? Making those sort of runs that he got on the end of Karatsaw's pass to score the 5th when Freiburg weren't effectively defending, mind. So, and he's still young. There's still a lot to come from him. So I get maybe the man management of that, and hopefully he'll understand that as well and keep producing, whether it's off the bench or starting. But yeah, obviously a good home result for Stuttgart and one to forget for Freiburg going into the international break. We shall move on to our second most entertaining game of the weekend, and we can pick out Werder beating Mainz by 4-0, which, came as a shock to quite a few of us. I can't remember what we predicted on Thursday night, Mark. I think I actually backed Mainz to win 3-1 or something like that.
We went for a 2-1 win, I think, for Mainz. Yeah, away
2-1 win, yeah. But absolutely, credit goes to Werder. They really turned up in this match, and Mainz again did not. Helped by a quick start, I think we have to say, Peter. It was a bit of it was carnage that few seconds in the box, which led to the penalty. Ducksch eventually being, preventing his shot from most likely going in, but he then steps up to take the responsibility. Fuhrich, who, kind of banishing the demons in that sense, and he'll obviously want to step up in that sense. But after all doing this, Ducksch, leading the line, but after 30 minutes, he's had to go off as well because of the head injury. And, they throw on the youngster, the 6'6" monster. I think he's 19 years old as well. That came on and, did a good job. But overall, the second goal, I guess, is a killer from this match's point of view. A lovely delivery from Mitchell Weiser, and like the return of Mitchell Weiser, I feel, played a great game, some delightful crosses and dangerous crosses, but perfectly met by, I'll hand over to you now, Peter, because I'm sure you would like to introduce the second player, as you're so fond of saying his name, and your little tagline with him as well.
Jens, all the world's a stage, you mean? Absolutely. Yeah, that's how I remember his proper pronunciation, because I thought it would be Staga, but it's the Dane. They pronounce it stage. This was certainly a very interesting match. If you had told me beforehand that a front line of David Kornacki and Nick Voltemada would hold their own in any match against any opponent, I wouldn't necessarily have believed you. If you had told me that Njinmah would come off the bench to not only score a goal, but provide an assist, I would have been quite surprised. I'm not necessarily surprised that Bremen won, of course. I mean, Mainz are in total disarray at this juncture. Tactically, it's a bit of a mess. We have, there were many injuries to the defensive core in preseason. Vandenberg, who was on loan at Schalke from Liverpool last season, got hurt again. He was on his way back. Andreas Hanche Olsen, who is actually a very good, solid defender, the Norwegian, has been slow to recover his fitness from injury. They had some issues there at left back following the departure of Aaron Monti, the Spaniard. And what they did was they bought back Philipp Moine, which is fine. I like Philipp Moine. He's an old Kaiserslautern alum. But they moved Kachi over to right back there. Kachi ordinarily playing left, and that of course didn't work out. It's funny with all the talk of the players who have moved to Saudi Arabia this summer. Nobody's really talking about Alexander Hack, but he was a Mainz mainstay for 9 seasons, and he said goodbye to the Mainz ultras there at the Pokal match via megaphone, and they were quite upset with him for doing that. That's just not. I don't suppose that Alexander Hack going to Saudi Arabia was necessarily something that made front page news. It certainly was only in the back pages in the Bundesrepublik, but they sorely miss him. That defensive line, you've had Dominic Kor filling in, you've had Edmilson Fernandez filling in, and it's all kind of wishy-washy. Ajorque and his nightmare start on match day 1, Onisiwo's injury, Burkhardt's continued unavailability, Anton Stach's move to Hoffenheim at the end of the transfer window. We got a lot of problems at Mainz. We got Mo problems for Bo, if I may coin a phrase there. And really the only encouraging thing I saw from them was I think Jae-Sung Lee had some bright moments in that match. But there was a question earlier about the transfer window. Who had the best ones? Obviously, Leverkusen top, Leipzig 2, Union Berlin 3. I'm not sorely disappointed with Bremen's transfer window, actually. They made some money off Füllkrug. They made some money off Grujew. They made some money off Lee Buchanan. The one guy that they got from the Belgian league, Lenin, I think he's not quite good in the field. But I really, really like this signing they did on deadline day, Olivier Deman. I think that he could be an excellent complement to Mitchell Weiser, who, let's not forget, Mitchell Weiser is a very good player. He played an awesome match. He's a Leverkusen reject. So, and Rafael Santos Borre. I can't wait. No German football fan can wait to see Rafael Santos Borre starting for a Bundesliga club again. I think that I talked a little bit about this in the column. I think that Bremen might be poised to turn around. Mainz, oh good Lord, I would not want to be in Bo Svensson's shoes right about now. But those are my thoughts on the match. I don't know. Maybe Mark has some different ones. What do you say there, Mark?
Yeah, I pretty much had similar. I think we all expected more from Mainz, but yeah, I'm worried just looking at the kind of starting lineup actually from Mainz, as you mentioned. You mentioned before, Peter, about teams that had the best transfer windows. I mean, did any team have a worse transfer window than Mainz? Let's be honest, because as you say, they lost so many key players. And like Aaron Martin was such a good player too. I think he even made my team of the season last year at right back. And he obviously went, I can't remember where, but to some kind of smaller Serie A team, which was maybe a little bit of a surprise and disappointment for Mainz fans. As you mentioned, Hack leaving to Saudi Arabia was a massive loss because he was a huge player in that defense. And I look at that defense at the moment and half of them aren't even defenders. As you say, like Fernandez isn't really a proper defender. And yeah, Sepp van den Berg, I think, made his debut in this match. He didn't look particularly good on loan. Obviously had quite a good spell at Schalke last year, but I think from a Werder perspective, it was a very kind of confident performance. Hanke Olsen could easily have been sent off early on as well. I was a little bit surprised why that wasn't a red card, in truth, because like Ducksch was literally about to tap the ball into the back of the net when he was fouled, and it was only a yellow. So I thought they were actually a little bit lucky that they didn't have to play 86 minutes with 10 men, to be honest with you. That's another point from that game. I think, the key for Werder for me, though, was Mitchell Weiser. I thought he had his best game since probably before the World Cup. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but between like August and November of last season, he was one of the best players in the Bundesliga, let alone for Werder. Yeah. And then for me, he didn't quite recover that level of form in the second half of the season, But today was his best performance since probably November of last year. I thought he was superb. Like the cross for the second goal, which ultimately won it, and then from 2-0, it was easy, really, for Werder, and they could probably have gone on to get another couple, really, in the game. Werder, again, as you mentioned, Gross came back in the side from that lean, and I mean, I saw him play against Bayern. I actually thought he looked quite good, Linen. I think he was one of the few signings for Werder this year. But yeah, Gross he's a wily player, and he's the kind of player you want to bring in when you just lost your first 2 games of the season. He knows what he's doing in that holding midfield position. I think Schmid also had a good game too. I'm not sure, but I think he missed the first couple of games as well. He came back in for this game. He's key for them as well. He's a real live wire in that attacking midfield position. And, Werder, considering that there are quite a few struggling sides at the bottom of that league at the moment, I mean, I tip them to be bottom 4, bottom 5, but they might just be able to get like lower mid-table, I think, Werder, based on this performance, despite the loss of obviously full crew. But I think I mentioned to you, Peter, I'm not sure how much of a loss that actually is, because again, he was another one that started the season amazingly well last year, but I think he only actually got 5 goals after the World Cup. Obviously, he was injured partly as well. He hadn't started this season particularly well either, and I think Boré could even potentially do better than him in some ways as well. I think Boré is a great replacement as well, and I'm interested to see how he does when he starts his first game in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I agree with your points there. Definitely don't. I personally, I think whichever way around this game went, I think we probably would have been reacting probably the same way, as in like, oh well, Mainz won, so Werder in massive trouble, or vice versa. It kind of felt like one of those games that both teams are looking like they could struggle. Great win for Werder. I don't think necessarily it means they're out of shtick just yet, but yeah, it's a really important win. And yeah, as you say, Rafa Boré is a perfectly good replacement, and we look forward to seeing how he settles in to that side. Just before we move on to our final, our most exciting game of the season, just picking up on Paul very nicely jumping on, saying, hi, all, great show as always. Thanks for all the kind words. Looking forward to having a rest and being able to tune in every week as a fan of the show. I'm OTB for life, but it's time for a rest. So yeah, very well put there, Paul. Thank you very much for that. And he just added as well, second the above comments, Peter's Kiosk is a wonderful addition, and the three of us are a great trio of Bundesliga brains. So very nice comment. Thank you very much, Paul. Glad you're enjoying the show, and we wish you absolutely a nice long rest. And I think he's picked up on Paulinho's failed transfer to Bayern as well, being given much coverage in Germany, as there's a lot of comment in the UK about him having to fly back in the last minutes, obviously because the Bundesliga transfer window shut at, 5 p.m. Rather than the Premier League one being closed at nearer to midnight, I believe. So that was an interesting one to follow for sure. And we'll maybe go to Peter on his Kiosk Club, whether that got any attention in the papers, as we move on to our final game of the featured 5 this week, and it was the Friday night game. Borussia Dortmund 2, Heidenheim 2. Heidenheim have earned their first ever Bundesliga point. It was quite the start to the weekend, full of drama, full of VAR-ness and refereeing decisions. Naturally, when seeing Dortmund go 2-0 up, you're kind of thinking, okay, well, they can kickstart their season and crack on from there. But Heidenheim had other ideas, Mark. And, do you want to get stuck into some of the VAR decisions? Because, Dortmund's 2 goals were full of it, weren't they? Starting off with the first goal, which you can have your say on whether you think Emre Can handled the ball, leading to Julian Brandt's opener.
Yeah, I think this was probably the most debatable of them all for me, actually, because in the past, I would have said it was a clear handball, but I think they actually changed the rule to basically it's only handball now if it's like deliberate handball, which overly complicates the rule in many ways. And I think basically the referee decided that it wasn't, there's nothing he could have done to move his hand out of the way. He didn't move his arm towards it. But obviously it did end up being a handball assist, basically, in many ways, before Julian Brandt tucked it away. I also thought the way Brandt celebrated, he almost seemed to think that's going to get chalked up because he didn't really... Obviously, he had a clear view that it did come off the hand of Can, and then obviously it was well finished by Brandt. But for me, I think my opinion is, if you're Heidenheim, you're gutted about that. Do you know what I mean? I think it's you'd be fuming, really. But I think nowadays I have seen goals given in similar situations where it probably is a correct decision ultimately. Because I don't think Chan could have got that ball out of the way, but that's the problem with the handball rule nowadays. What is an intentional handball? You could argue that a player can always get the hand out of the way, you know what I mean? But for me, I think in terms of modern rules, it was correct, but I think ethically it probably should have been ruled out because I don't really agree. For me, any handball that leads to a goal should be ruled out ultimately for me. Yeah. Then for me, the first penalty, the Dortmund penalty, that was a clear penalty though for me. I read at the time when I was watching the game, a few people on social media were saying it was a bit harsh against Maloney. But for me, he definitely put his hand out there, and it was just on the edge of the area between being a free kick and a penalty. But after a VAR view, the referee gave the penalty, which was easily tucked away by Chan. That was 2-0, but it never really looked comfortable. There were only 15 minutes on the clock at that point. And to be honest, you never thought that Dortmund were comfortable in this game. And you know, Frank Schmidt and his boys felt as though they'd been hardly done by. And you can understand that, you know, when two kind of VARs go against you. I mean, I know what it was like, obviously, watching the Nuremberg game the other day as well about VARs going against you. But, yeah, it is frustrating. But I think ultimately they were probably the correct decisions according to the letter of the law. That's my opinion on the Dortmund ones. But I'll let Peter take you through the whole Heidenheim recovery in the second half.
Thank you, Mark. First and foremost, I thank you kindly for taking care of all the refereeing talk for me. This is not something to get into.
Well, you got one as well in the second half.
True. You know, it was actually a very, very good first half from Dortmund. Brandt continues to impress with his form. I thought that Malen, Haller and Kahn were also quite good. From a tactical vantage point, it was very, very interesting that Frank Schmidt mirrored Edin Terzic's 4-1-4-1 in the first half, and he had a little bit of. I mean, they couldn't exactly stand pound for pound for Dortmund with that, but in the second half, what he did is he brought Pieringer on, and they had like a little 4-4-2. It was this nice, tight little midfield diamond. And it really broke up Dortmund's play well and frustrated them and made sure that, you know, they weren't able to comfortably move out of the back or bow arc or anything like that. I thought it was really a nice little tactical piece. And I think that Maloney, who conceded the handball, of course, I'm biased. He is a player that I've tracked as an American who wants to play for the USA. I think that he really put in a good performance there as well. It was a good match. It was a fun match. I think actually a 2-2 was fair result, more or less. I mean, a lot of the criticism about Dortmund in the German press is overblown, and this is something that we've come to expect from this time of year. A lot of it had to do with the fact that the German press didn't exactly know what to lead with. You know, they wanted to maybe lead with Union again. They wanted to lead with something spectacular from Harry Kane. Harry Kane didn't score. They wanted to maybe talk about Leverkusen some more, but that's kind of a tired story. So there's a lot of BVB critiquing going on in the German press. I don't think they're necessarily that bad. I definitely don't think, to answer Baum's question, that they're out of the title race, and that relates to Paul's query about Palhinha. Wow. You know, there were several press things that just that couldn't make the cut for the Kiosk Klub because we only have so much time. You know, I wanted to save the Frankfurter Allgemeine and the Süddeutsche all had Palhinha's transfer finalized, already printed in the Saturday edition. And the headline was, Tuchel gets his holding six. So the fact that all of this fell apart at the last moment is an embarrassment for Bayern. They had a terrible window, and they're catching hell in the press. They called it Black Friday. I don't know if English people understand what that is. That's like an American retail holiday. Oh, okay, you guys do it in the UK too. Yeah, they called it Black Friday for Bayern. But with Bayern's transfer window, with the form that we see Leverkusen and Leipzig in, assuming that Union can bounce back because they do have an excellent side, nobody is out of the title race yet, and I think we got 4 teams competing for it. If I'm honest, there.
Yeah, lovely stuff. I think we'll just very quickly glance over the best of the rest because we want to have time for Peter's Kiosk Klub. So, just quick headlines. Obviously, the Gladbach hoodoo is over by an overcoming Gladbach, coming from 1-0 down after Ko Itakura's opening goal. Very nice header, actually, to give Gladbach the lead. But they just dropped deeper and deeper, and they couldn't obviously withhold Bayern for as long as they wanted to. And obviously, eventually, Sane got the equaliser, and a lovely moment for Matty's tell as well. We've been kind of following him since we mentioned that he got some rather nasty abuse on social media, which is not the best place for anyone, or particularly a footballer at times. So, that was his biggest moment in a Bayern shirt, wasn't it? So that's certainly a nice thing to see for the young man, and he could well be a really big part of Bayern's title charge and season going forwards. As you already alluded to, Peter, a relatively quiet outing for Harry Kane. There were some really entertaining matches elsewhere. We really struggled picking the featured five this week. The 2-2 draw between Augsburg and Bochum. Asano at the double to get a point for Bochum after Beljo and Demirovic had scored for Augsburg. And a really big comeback win for Hoffenheim as well, after their struggles against Heidenheim the week before. They're doing it the hard way, it seems, but they came back really well against Wolfsburg, who, again, we tipped to beat Hoffenheim. Bayer with his first start, I think his first start of the season, getting that goal to give them the lead after Brooks had equalised, much to Peter's delight, no doubt. And a third goal at the end by Skovt to make it 3-1. And another late equaliser for Frankfurt at home by debutant Niels Nkunku, who were trailing thanks to a Florian Kainz penalty. So that is indeed the best of the rest. Just wanted to quickly whip through that. Obviously, a big result for Bayern, big win for Hoffenheim, and a good point for Augsburg and Bochum. So we shall gladly move on and finish the show off with a bit of kiosk clubbing with Peter. So, Peter, we shall hand it over to you.
Thank you. And thank you for mentioning John Anthony Brooks. I appreciate that greatly. As I said, the German press wasn't entirely sure what to lead with. Of course, Boniface was leading the Sportbild. It is Boom Boom Boniface, not Bum Bum Boniface. I found this a little bit uncreative, considering they did the Boniface Bonbons last week. Germany's Kicker magazine led with Der Stotterstadt for Dortmund. This was, I know they so badly wanted to lead with Union again this week, but since they couldn't, they had to go with the Dortmund stutter step, or the Dortmund stumbling out of the gate. With that in mind, we're going to placate Rory with some great Stuttgart headlines. The Sportbild went ahead with wieder 5-0, Stuttgart überrollt Freiburg, and it's right below Brooks ärgert sein Ex-Club, which is right here. So we've got Brooks, we've got my John Anthony Brooks and Rory's VfB Stuttgart in there. Congratulations to Serhu Guirassy, who is the Bundesliga's leading goal scorer. He is the first Stuttgart player to do so since good old Lutz Allgauer in 1984. How about that? Kicker also was doing some more Stuttgart coverage from what you were alluding to. Weniger Stars, but mehr Sterne. So less stars, but okay, you get Sterne. You don't have to be a German wordsmith to know that this means stars in German. And they're, of course, alluding to the departures of Konstantinos Mavropanos, Borna Sosa, and Wataru Endo. Lots of praise for Stuttgart this week. They are probably the most celebrated team in the German press, celebrated in much the same way that Union were last week. I also saved local Badische Neue Nachrichten von you. Wie entfesselt, they are unhinged, unleashed, uncorked. VfB Stuttgart are. That's for you, Rory. I wanted to answer a query very quickly about future forthcoming Matchday vlogs, and announce that I will begin editing one this evening. Mark and I went to the Betze to see FC Kaiserslautern and FC Nuremberg on Saturday night, so we should have that coming with you soon. And if I may pay a short tribute to Paul McGarity as well, I would like to say that Paul is working on a manuscript about Lutz Eigendorf, a player for FC Kaiserslautern. And it was my great pleasure and privilege to receive some queries from Paul and work with him and answer them, and just see how deeply he researched my town, my club, and a player. And, you know, hard work, it's not just about putting it out there. It's about making friends. It's about being part of a family. It's about being part of a community. And thank you, Paul, for taking an interest, and it's a pleasure to work with you. Hope to continue working with you, perhaps on a manuscript.
Very nicely put there, Peter. Thank you very much for another excellent edition of the Kiosk Klub. So that very nicely rounds us up for this evening. Just a final reminder this evening of our exclusive that we mentioned first thing when starting the show a little while ago, is that the next Bundesliga boxes batch number 33, pre-orders will go live Friday the 22nd of September. So make sure that you do get those pre-orders in, or else you will miss out, like myself and many others missed out on the delightful magnetic league table. So many people are clamoring around for extra Bundesliga boxes, so make a note in the diary. And I shall gladly hand over to yourself, Mark, to finish up for this evening.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to cry now. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, it's been another fantastic show, guys. Yeah, so yeah, check out, continue to follow our Twitter at @OverTheBarFB and at @OverTheBarExtra, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Keep following our stuff. You know, we're going well over 1,000 now. As we mentioned, we've got so much coming for you this week. Obviously, it will be, unfortunately, an international week as well this week. So, you know, we hope to get this vlog from as Peter mentioned, from the game, and also some other shows as well be coming your way. So yeah, stay subscribed to Over the Bar, and we'll see you next time. See you later, guys. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.